Alright then, guys. Here we are. We are now officially at the first polish pass for Janthir Wilds here on September 10th. We've got a lot to talk about, actually. This is a big old patch, as you can see here. A lot going on, and I'm pretty happy about some of the stuff here as well. We have got the Reign of Terror of Warrior in PvP and World vs. World being brought to an end, or at least a little bit. We've got the dominance of Revenant Spear being brought down to more realistic levels. A whole bunch of bug fixes here as well. Some quality of life stuff. And I don't believe it, guys. We've got massive nerfs to Salmon Run to get gold on that. Epoch nerfs. The Epoch meta event has been nerfed as well. Umbreal normal mode has also been nerfed as well in convergences, and a whole bunch of other things. A couple of minor improvements to the hearts actually on Janthir Sentry. I feel like we could have gone harder on that. More on that a little bit later, I suppose. But I guess like the way to actually start off here is by kind of talking about what this patch actually is and why I'm actually pretty happy about it. In this patch, a lot of bug fixes, a lot of polish, a lot of tuning on certain events. Like, for example, the Bog Queen kind of maggot phase was pretty overtuned. It would overscale very aggressively. Caught, you know, meaning that phase just went on forever. Really, really nice. Okay, that's been tuned there as well. And I want to talk about this. Actually, is an important thing, because this has actually been one of ArenaNet's big weaknesses, is that once content releases, maybe you get a couple of bug fixes, but that's it. It's on to the next thing, right? And this, to me, is very, very pleasing, because we've moved away from that direction. ArenaNet have taken a lot of feedback, looked at all of the information, and we've gone through and fixed a lot of these issues here as well, right? Like, for example, look at this. More events around the Festering Basin now grant renown tokens, so you can have a much easier time building up those tokens to complete the hearts on Janthir Sentry. Like, some events were stalling. They are now not going to be stalling there as well, right? There's, like, more mobs that you can kill as well in the southeast. I would definitely like to see more here as well, because I know these are a lot of really good changes. There are a lot of good bug fixes, but there are still more problems. The heart rewards could probably use a little bit of a tune, right? Some of the event spawn timers could probably use a little bit of a tune on that second map, or even maybe more content being added there as well. That would be really good as well. But anyway, I kind of want to talk about the balance before I kind of start rambling about that forever. That can be at the end of the video. We can do that a little bit later I think we can do that. But anyway, I want to talk about the balance here, because let's get down to business here. So, some also really important bug fixes, like Thief had a really funny bug. Well, I guess not funny if you play Thief, where you would... where trying to use your stealth attack would just not work, because your auto attack chain would reveal you before you could do the stealth attack. They fixed that. Engineer got some bug fixes here as well, because the auto attack was evading, but now the 5th skill is going to evade instead. Better AoE and telegraphing on Solar Storm as well, like red warning rings popping up there as well. A couple of bug fixes on Mesmer, and now we get to the actual juicy stuff. So, look, rev numbers have gone down. What's the bottom line? It's actually still a pretty good build. It looks like this Condi Renegade build is actually settling around 45, 46k DPS, which is I mean, look, I know it's kind of crazy, guys, but that's where we're at. Like, that's a DPS build. That's what DPS builds are kind of coming in at these days. And therefore, you know, we've gone back to the realm of more or less sanity in this regard. And the build is essentially in a perfectly okay spot. It's not deleted. You can 100% still play this. It's still going to be great. Same with the Condi Herald. It's still going to be a great build. It's just not completely busted, doing like 53,000 DPS or anything like that. And the other one is actually Warrior. And bear in mind, guys, I actually want to preface this. We actually have a balance patch preview coming on Friday. These are not all the changes, right? Because I know that there are other balance issues, like Ranger Spear potentially maybe being a little bit underwhelming in PvE would be an example of that. But to be clear, these are hot fixes, right? Warrior was breaking PvP. Renegade was breaking PvE. That's why these are here and other issues haven't been addressed, right? We're dealing with like the most egregious problems. That's why like the Thief bug was fixed here. because yes. People go, what about my Mesmer Phantasms not working on a bunch of NPCs? Yep, like, unfortunately, that's not quite as game-breaking as some of this stuff. Same with Ellie. Elementalist Volcano is also super weird right now. That will be coming later. Arena are obviously going to be aware of that, or at least listening for feedback. But these are the really game-breaking ones. And the warrior changes, you know what? These are actually good. Look... Some of these nerfs are pretty harsh, okay? There's some pretty aggressive nerfs here, and the basic concept here is trying to reduce the sustain a little bit. So healing on staff going down, unless you're committing to, you know, like a lot of healing power, you're going to have a significantly lower amount of healing, and the scaling is actually going down here as well. This is actually, I think the healing power nerfs here are actually to specifically combat this Bunker Warrior build. You would actually use the Heretic Amulet with healing power, precision, ferocity on it, and you could just, I mean, look, I was watching the monthly AT, and I was watching Spellbreakers unironically hold a 1v4 for 30 seconds, right? This build was insane. Like, combining all of the evasion together, right? Like, all of the blocks of Spellbreaker, the Defiant stance, and linking all these things together. This was a broken build, right? To be clear, this was not an overpowered build. This was a broken build. And a big part of that was absolutely the kind of free sustain you got. Like, Staff is an interesting weapon for Warrior because you actually use it on a lot of aggressive builds because it still does enough damage to be a DPS weapon, but it also gives you a huge amount of sustain with the block on the 5th skill there, and of course all of the little heals coming in there as well. So there's been a couple of changes to address that, including actually Path to Victory having its attack range reduced as well to make that ability actually hard to land, to make that damage less consistent as well. And then let's have a look at Spear. Harrier's Toss, this is the burst skill for Spear. Damage going down in World vs. World. This build was crazy, by the way, in World vs. World. And I think Warrior will still be good. Whether it will still be the absolute, like, you know, awesome best-in-slot DPS, that remains to be seen, of course, because there are some other nerfs here as well. But I don't think that it's dead in World vs. World by any stretch of the imagination. It's just that this was, like, almost one-shotting people in World vs. World. It was crazy DPS. So that's being taken down there a little bit, specifically in World vs. World. That's not nerfed in PvP, by the way, so Spear's damage is still going to be high in PvP with that burst skill. And, of course, it is still an evade as well, which is very powerful. And then the really big one, this is like the big damage output nerf on Spear. Spear Martial Support. This skill now performs an initial attack. This attack must hit a target for the follow-up attacks to occur. Reduce the damage coefficient from 0.4 to 0.25 in PvP. So a very, very big nerf for this ability, both in terms of counterplay, so like it's going to be significantly harder to land this attack, and it does a lot less damage when you do. So what was the problem with this ability? The problem with this ability, you could like put a pulsing AoE on someone, and you'd almost be forced to either double dodge to avoid the damage and expend, your dodges, which is a huge deal for one ability, by the way, or you'd tank a decent amount of damage. Like, you'd be forced to use a defensive against this ability. This is a very strong thing to do in PvP and made the ability extremely oppressive. And in World vs. World 2 for a similar reason. Like, being able to get that amount of damage off that consistently at range, by the way, incredibly powerful. I think this is definitely an aggressive change, but this build was unbelievably strong, and Warrior Spear in general was incredibly strong. So I'm not super torn about it, to be honest. And again, there is a balance patch coming up that we're going to be seeing the preview of on Friday. So if it turns out that Warrior Spear has been like nuked from orbit, then there will be a follow-up there as well to address that. I think another really good change here, these two changes here are really good as well. Defiant Stance duration going down from 4 to 3 in PvP. Yep, this ability is absolutely insane. It essentially gives you better invulnerability, because not only does it make you unkillable, it also turns all of your incoming damage into healing, allowing you to quite often, especially in a kind of a larger engagement, fully resustain yourself and get back to full health immediately. Crazy strong ability. And yeah, in addition to all of the other defensive tools that the Warrior has with the staff, with full counter, with the spear evasion, yeah, like this build was a complete monstrosity, to be honest. And Spear Swipe is no longer unblockable, and the cooldown's going up in PvP, this is the 5 skill, by the way. And the cooldown refund on an evade is 2 seconds instead of 6. So the goal here is to reduce the evasion and kind of defensive mitigation capacity of the Warrior, kind of combined with Defiant Stance. Like, I think this is perfectly reasonable, to be honest. If I actually had to guess, I would still say that Warrior... Yeah, I think this Spear Marshal support change is actually very significant. This means that players who, especially players who are really watching out for this ability, will be able to very consistently avoid this ability, like by evading it. This is a big part of Spear's power, like, was the ability to kind of force a lot of resources from your opponent. This is pretty impactful. But I do think that Spear Warrior will actually still be pretty good in PvP and World vs. World. I think so. If I had to guess, I would say it's not going to be as ridiculous, and it's entirely possible that, like, the next broken build will pop up. Like, for example, the Ranger Spear was in PvP, it was very much being overshadowed by Warrior. This will definitely cause some shifts in the meta, but I'm not expecting Warrior Spear to be complete trash, to be honest. And again, it might need to be looked at in the future to give some power back to it in other ways, if that's actually necessary. So those are the balance changes here as well. And yeah, again, guys, bear in mind, this is kind of like a little hotfix tuning pass on the expansion, so we are going to be seeing a little bit more of this later. Couple of fun things here for World vs. World 2, actually. You can get hero weapons from the Skirmish Supervisor if you've unlocked the associated skin, and also they buffed Ballista. Nice. We've got some World vs. World balance changes in there as well. More chain pull buffs as well, so you're getting more damage. The Warclaw is going to be doing more DPS with the chain pull to structures, basically, as well. And here is, okay, this is a big change, okay? We've got you can now exchange your crafting material coffers for materials directly. This is actually so nice, because these things are the ones where you have to click it, select what you want, click it, select what you want. This is actually these are so annoying. I've got, like, stacks of these things on my main, because I'm not doing that, right? I've just let them pile up, and I don't open them when I get them. So that's actually a nice quality of life. And yeah, you can get the Woad skins as well. That's not listed here, actually, but yeah, you can go ahead and get the Woad skins, those armor skins, directly for gold, if you like, by essentially purchasing Memories of Battle. It's pretty pricey. It's 200 a pop, so at current prices, that's about 40 gold per skin. So it's a little bit of a sink for this, and hey, that's good if you play World vs. World. You'll be able to sell your Memories of Battle and get some cash for doing that as well. It will probably increase the value of that, at least temporarily, which is pretty cool stuff, if you ask me. Love to see that. And yeah, there's just, like, a bunch of quality of life changes, right? Like, just to kind of give a little bit of a flavor. Like, you can select any stats you want now, I think, on Mischarged Jade accessories, right? They fixed the attribute selections for some of the Ascended stuff that you get from Janthir Wilds. You don't get the Superior Sigil of Demon Slaying dropping anymore if you know the recipe, right? There's actually kind of a nice quality of life option that if you click on a feast in the real world now, you can, like, if you look at the top of the screen in the where you see the target, it's got the food buff. Food now has the food buff, so you can mouse over it to see what food that is before you actually eat it, so you don't, like, overwrite your food or pick a food that you don't really want. Like, Mr. Ribbington has got a hat on his icon now as well in the game. This is really good. I do want to actually praise that we are improving the game. Oh, and you know what? I've got to call this out because I flamed this. Guys, they fixed the communicator dialogue from Barbed Veil overlapping with Greer in the Titan event. Now, the Titans will do their little spiel when they lose, and, you know, you send them packing, right? And, you know, they're talking trash. And then afterwards, Barbed Veil, right, is actually going to start talking, so you can actually listen to what Greer and Decima are saying before they leave, and then you get Barbed Veil. That is a really nice change. I'm not gonna lie. It is the small stuff like this that really does make the overall experience better. I do want to see more, though, guys. I want to see more. I really do. And I genuinely hope they continue this, by the way. Like, these patches are so important, right? Like, yeah, this is not, like, brand new content. And, you know, look, I actually feel a little bit annoyed trying to defend this, okay? Because, okay, let me actually give you guys some real talk here. Whenever I'm positive about certain things that ArenaNet do, particularly when it comes to, like, maintaining the game and tuning, right, and quality of life, I actually get a little bit of pushback, right? And I actually want to address that here. This is not new content, and I do want new content, and I will continue to advocate for ArenaNet to do stuff like add new events to the second map, add more content overall, like, you know, make better content, make better encounters, balance the game better. I advocate for that, okay? Obviously. But I want to make it clear, Patches like this are so important. All these silly little bugs, like the telegraphing on Greer not being super good. They should probably fix that. These changes make the experience for the player so much better. When something is jank, when something is just not quite right, when it's not working, when an event stalls, when it just takes a little bit too long to do those hearts, right? These things are so important to the overall experience. And again, maybe some people aren't aware of this, but one of ArenaNet's biggest weaknesses is they don't go back and do stuff like this and actually fix stuff and address issues in old content. It's a meme in the Guild Wars 2 community, the 2-week window. People call it the 2-week window. Like, if ArenaNet haven't patched it, if they haven't fixed a bug after 2 weeks, it's here forever and it will never be addressed. And there's a reason for that. If you go back to End of Dragons, basically all of the strike missions have pretty serious bugs that are not real likely to get fixed, right? So I really do want to actually take some time to kind of call out that this is good progress, right, in my mind, that we're willing to actually have a proper pass and look at some of these issues and fix it. And I will continue to push them to do this in the future. This stuff is important. This stuff absolutely matters. And is a key part in actually maintaining and improving the game. Look at that, guys. The fishing node and the resource nodes are now in the right spot as well. Wow. That is epic, guys. That is some epic gaming right there. We love to see that. We love to see that. We really, really do. But yeah, it's good. I like it. Let's see. Is there anything else in particular I want to address? We've got the new PvP mode. Very exciting. I guess I actually could briefly talk about these nerfs, by the way, for some of the adventures. So, okay, I'm actually a little bit sad they nerfed Salmon Run, because this was a really cool challenge, and I think they went a little bit too hard, okay? Nerf it, okay, that's fine. It probably was a little bit too difficult for an adventure, but bear in mind, there are some pretty challenging adventures to get gold on, like Fungus Among Us is like a personal favorite of mine. It's not trivial to do that, and then Salmon Run is definitely a little bit tighter than Fungus. To be honest, I think that's fair enough. But still, they went really hard on this, right? They absolutely demolished it, to be honest. I think it would be really cool, actually, if they added an achievement, not even like a 0 AP one, or like just like one that has like a silly title or something like that, for getting like a fast time. Because it is now significantly easier. So if you were struggling with this, like you can 100% slam this now. You're going to have absolutely zero issue whatsoever. And I would love if they added an achievement for getting like a special time. Like, you know, getting something like, I don't know, sub 205 or sub 210, which is very realistic now, by the way. Like, I got 215 on a completely atrocious run just by, like, bonking into the terrain. It's, like, very, very heavily nerfed now with some of the things they've done. You can just dash way more. You've got more time. You can jump way easier. So if you get stuck, you can just, like, keep jumping again because, like, you get all of your dodges back, basically, all the time. You get all of your jumps back all the time. It's much, much easier. Like, all of the pathing and the movement is massively simplified now. So fair enough, but it would be cool to have an achievement there, in my opinion. And a quick thing about Umbriel as well. Umbriel got nerfed, and this very much was because Umbriel is significantly harder than the other bosses, and it was causing some disruption in public convergences in particular, particularly like late starting ones where kind of like the, you know, the more kind of eager and I guess sweatier players get in there a little bit earlier, and then some of the groups afterwards aren't quite as powerful in terms of their output. So Umbriel's HP is down, and the bleeding stacks are also down there as well, so the damage output is down. I want to be clear, and shout out to ArenaNet, this is only on normal. CM is untouched. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've got nothing else to say about that. I actually think this is a perfectly fine change. Umbriel does not give more rewards and is way harder than the other ones. So it is weird when, if you join a pug, you go, oh my god, it's Umbriel. This is gonna suck. Right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is not gonna be fun. So yeah, good change. And they didn't nerf it on CM. So I'm happy about that. And Eparch also, it didn't actually, that's kind of an interesting one, isn't it? Yeah, they nerfed Eparch specifically in Anaios, and the HP is down a lot there. I think it's a pretty significant nerf, actually. I did a run before this, and we had a complete fiesta. We had 25 stacks on the boss, and I think we still killed it with about 7 minutes left on the timer, so it was about an 8-minute kill, maybe a little bit longer than 8 minutes. And it is way easier in terms of the DPS check. I think it's whatever. You know, I do kind of like a couple of things to have a DPS check, but that meta is a bit weird because of how long the prep is, right? And honestly, how scuffed it is. I'm not going to cry too much about it. To be honest, it's whatever. Like, that meta event is not that much fun anyway, so okay, I guess. But yeah, if you want to get that meta done, you want to, you know, get the achievements or whatever, it is much easier to do now. The DPS check, I think, is significantly easier. All the damage is still there and all that kind of stuff. They said they actually nerfed the Defiance bar of Epoch. I think it's actually still a pretty strong Defiance bar, I'm not gonna lie. It's a bit of a decent CC check. Like, you know, we only barely broke it in my group, and I was, like, screaming at people to, like, get on the Warclaw and start spamming, like, the Spear ability to break the Defiance, and we were, like, going crazy with way stations. It's not a free Defiance bar, I'm not gonna lie. But, yeah, that's something, I guess. Oh, yeah, you can't go on the Warclaw in raids now as well. Nice. Very fun. With all that kind of good stuff. But, yeah, that, I think, kind of just about does it for the news. I think, you know, if you want to read all of this good stuff, I'd go ahead and read through it. But in general, I think you're going to find your experience in Janthir and, I guess, kind of the world in general to be a little bit smoother. Big fan of patches like this as well. Cool little Champion of Champions, repeatable PvP title for, like, grinding automated tournament placements too, which is actually fun. This is a cool thing to work towards, by the way. And it will also upgrade over time. You can get, like, infinite Champion of Champions now by doing that. But yeah, overall, I actually think a really solid patch, actually. And I want to see more. Like, I want to see them continue to do this. Like, I want to see another patch like down the line like this in 2 weeks, another 2 weeks from there, because they are not done. There are plenty of issues that, in my opinion, still could really use being addressed. But this is a good start, actually. I was certainly a little bit worried that there wasn't this kind of tuning pass patch last week, but it was going to be this week anyway. Like, I don't know, I just wasn't paying attention. I was not looking at that shaman's patch tracker nearly closely enough, apparently. But I'm really pleased to see this in the game. Certainly looking forward to the balance patch as well. That's going to be coming up over the next couple of weeks. And the preview stream at this Friday. Definitely stay tuned for that, guys. I'll obviously be going over that here on stream and on YouTube as well. Lovely stuff indeed. Oh, yeah. I'm just going to flex, by the way, guys. I got the gift of Aurene for doing the Epoch meta, like, on my ult. I haven't got that on my main. I'm just saying. I'm just going to put that out there, okay? I'm just going to put that out there. Oh, yeah. Speaking of Epoch, they buff Rift, too, because we're going to need a bunch of Essence for the Legendary Spear, so boom, there you go. Get Rifting, gamers. Oh, yeah. Let's go. It's time. But anyway, I think that will actually just about do it. For this little news breakdown of what's going on there. Little balance patch, little tuning pass here and there, bug fixes, improvements to the game as well. Address the heart rewards ArenaNet, and add more events. Yo, Mr. Rivington, what's going on, bro? Yo! Boom. Look at this little guy. If you haven't got this frog, what are you doing? I think this is actually the first mini that I actually care about, because the collection for it was incredibly based. And it's a frog with a top hat. And he's a hard man, too. You wouldn't mess with this guy, seriously. He probably does more DPS than me. Anyway, that is going to about do it for now. Let me know what you think of this patch, guys. Do you like the tuning passes? Do you enjoy improving the game and fixing some of the slightly scuffed issues with it? If you do, then I guess you're in luck. Let me know in the comments. If you just think it's terrible, then, well, I guess you can do that as well. But you know what? We have no room for negativity around here, guys. Only toxic positivity. That's what we do on this channel. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it. Follow, subscribe, watch the stream, come back and watch every day. Watch the balance patch preview on Friday. Yeah, buy the game using my referral link. Leave your comments down below. And I'll see you next time. That's it. Okay, I'm done. I'm out of here, guys. It's over. Video done. Goodbye, YouTube. See ya.